Adaeze the forgotten. Adaeze the one Obina ran from.
Go and sweep the back of the church. That is where you belong. Not in this line. No, please, I belong here. Not with us.
They laughed, all of them, even the ones who knew better. She looked at them for a long moment. Then she picked up the broom and she swept. Not because she was beneath them, but because she was certain of something none of them knew. And she had learnt a long time ago that silence is sharper than any argument.
Before I take you into this story, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been the person that people counted out? The person they whispered about? The person who stayed quiet while others celebrated because you knew something they didn't know yet? This story is for that person. If that is you, or if you know someone who needs to hear this today, subscribe right now and share this video before it ends. Hit the like button before this story pulls you in so deep you forget. Because what happens to this woman will remind you of something you might have forgotten about yourself. Now, let me take you back 10 years.
Stay with me, because this story will undo something inside you, and you will need to be sitting down for the end.
Now, let me take you back to where it all started. 9 years before that festival morning. 9 years before the church square. Before Obina left. Before the village decided what kind of woman Adaeze was. Let me take you back to when she was simply a girl who was loved. Adaeze woke up before the roosters in Oguta village. Not because she wanted to, but because if she arrived at the stream after the other women, they would knock her pot off the rocks. Accidentally, they would say, and they would smile when they said it. She was 24 years old, unmarried, living in the back room of her uncle's compound, a room so small the door touched the bed when it opened, a room she was allowed to use because her uncle felt sorry for her, and because when her uncle's wife felt less sorry, she reminded Adaeze about it. In Oguta, they had a name for women like her, Mwa or Fodu, the leftover, a woman whose man had gone and not come back. A woman whose future had been cancelled by someone else's decision. But Adaeze had not always been this woman. Once, not so long ago, she had been the woman Obina Ezike chose.
Obina was the kind of man a village produces once a generation. Brilliant, patient, hardworking in a quiet way that did not ask for applause. His father had built a palm oil processing business with his own 2 hands, 10 workers, 2 machines, a warehouse at the edge of the village. Not rich by city standards, but solid, real, rooted. And Obina had loved Adaeze the way the earth loves rain. Not loudly, not with performance, but thoroughly, completely, down to the bone. They were to be married on a Saturday in October. Her aunties had already begun soaking their camel. His people had sent kola and obi palm wine. The wrapper fabric was already cut. Then, 4 days before the wedding, Obina was gone. No letter, no message, no explanation. Just gone. Like morning mist when the sun comes. Like he had never been there at all. And the woman who spread the story, the woman who made sure every ear in Oguta heard the version she had prepared, was Mama Ngozi. Mama Ngozi was not just cruel, she was efficient. There is a difference between someone who hurts you when the mood strikes and someone who has built a schedule around it. Mama Ngozi had a schedule. Sunday mornings, after the second service bell, She would position herself at the church gate. When Adaeze passed, she would speak. Not loudly, just loudly enough. The abandoned bride is here. God bless her patience. And the women around her would look at the ground and smile. Market Tuesdays, she would find a reason to pass Adaeze's store. Still selling pepper, my daughter. Good for you. A woman must have something to do with her hands when her house is empty. Festival days were the worst. The procession, the gathering under the udala tree, the shared food, the belonging. Adaeze would arrive, and Mama Ngozi would whisper something to the woman beside her, and the space near Adaeze would quietly, slowly empty. Why did Adaeze stay? That was a question the village could not answer. She had a cousin in Port Harcourt. She could have left, rebuilt somewhere new, started from zero. Nobody there knew the name Obinna. Nobody there knew what Mama Ngozi had said at the market in 2014. But Adaeze stayed. And when anyone bothered to ask, she would say, "My mother's bones are in this soil. I am not the one who should leave." It sounded like stubbornness. It was not stubbornness. It was certainty. In the back corner of her small room, pushed beneath the iron bed, was a wooden chest. Not large, not impressive, the kind of chest that held old fabric and forgotten things. But inside that chest, wrapped in an old blue cloth that had once been her mother's, were 6 letters. Written in Obinna's handwriting, small, careful, the way a man writes when every word costs him something. The first letter came 8 months after he disappeared. Short, painful, written, she would later understand, by a man still in shock. It said only, "I am alive. I am sorry. I cannot explain yet. Do not give up on me." The last letter arrived 2 months ago. Longer, steadier, full of a quiet urgency that made her chest tight when she read it. It said, "I am coming back. I am bringing everything. Trust me a little longer." On the worst nights, the nights when Mama Ngozi's words had followed her home like a smell, Adaeze would pull out that wooden chest. She would read the letters in order, from the first broken one to the last steady one, and she would whisper the same words she always whispered. "I know, I know, I know." Because she did know. She had known since the 3rd letter. She had known without being told that Obinna had not run, he had been pushed. And she had a strong feeling she knew who had done the pushing. There was something else, something small but persistent. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, Adaeze would catch Mama Ngozi looking at her, not with contempt, not with the usual satisfaction, with something beneath all of that, something that sat the way a stone sits at the bottom of clear water. Fear. A quick flash, gone before it could be questioned, like a woman who had said something she should not have said and was trying to take it back with her eyes. Why would a woman who called Adaeze useless be afraid of her? Adaeze stored that question in the same place she stored everything, in the same back corner of her mind where she kept the letters. Patient, careful, waiting. On a Wednesday morning in August, a silver car drove slowly into Oguta. It stopped once at the junction. The driver asked a boy selling groundnut for directions, then moved deeper into the compound paths. Word traveled faster than the car did. By the time the car stopped outside the back of Mama Ngozi's compound, then reversed, then turned, then stopped in front of Adaeze's uncle's gate, half the village had already left whatever they were doing. The man who stepped out was not from Oguta. Everything about him said so. His suit jacket over a plain shirt, the kind of shoes that did not belong on village roads, a slim envelope under his arm carried with the care of something important. He asked the boy drawing water from the well, "Which house is Adaeze Okonko?" The boy pointed.
Mama Ngozi was at her window before the man had reached the gate. Very still. The kind of still that is the opposite of calm. Adaeze opened the door before he knocked. She was calm. That was what confused everyone watching. No panic on her face, no surprise. Just a quiet, steady recognition. Like a woman who had been expecting someone and was simply relieved they had finally come. "You are from Obina?" she said. It was not a question. The man smiled slowly. "He said you would know before I spoke." They went inside. Outside, the village nearly fractured. "Did she say Obina? Which Obina?" "Our Obina, the one who left." "But he left 9 years ago. That car, did you see that car?" Mama Ngozi left her window. She walked quickly to her neighbor's house. Her neighbor, Chioma, had been one of the women who laughed at Adaeze at the festival. They spoke in whispers. Their hands moved too fast. Their eyes kept going back to the closed door.
His name was Emmanuel. He worked for a legal firm in Onitsha. He sat across from Adaeze and placed the envelope on the table between them without opening it. "He wants you to know he is well," Emmanuel said. "I know he is well," Adaeze said. "He told me in his last letter." Emmanuel paused. Then he nodded once. "He said you would say that." He told her 4 things. He did not explain everything. Obina had instructed him not to. But those 4 things were enough for Adaeze to close her eyes, let out one long slow breath, and press her hand against her chest as if holding something in. Emmanuel stood to leave after 20 minutes. At the door, he turned back once. "There is one more thing," he said. "I made a wrong turn coming in. I stopped briefly in front of another compound." He looked at her carefully. The woman at the window, she recognized the car. Adaeze said nothing. Emmanuel nodded slowly. "I thought you should know that." Then he walked back to his silver car and drove away. Oguta did not sleep that night. Let me tell you what really happened. The truth that only 3 people knew until now. Obina's father, Maziezike, had built his palm oil business over 22 years. By the time Obina turned 25, that business was the most valuable private asset in Oguta. A company from Owerri had approached Maziezike 3 years before his death, offering to buy the processing machinery and the warehouse. Maziezike refused. He said the business was Obina's inheritance and he would not sell it for any price. Maziezike died of a stroke 18 months before the wedding, and suddenly the business, the machines, the warehouse, the contracts was Obina's. Chief Amadi heard about the company's offer from a friend in Owerri. He told Mama Ngozi. Mama Ngozi told her son Kelechi, the same Kelechi that Adaeze had refused to marry 3 years earlier. Together, the 3 of them built a plan. They found a document that Maziezike had signed years before, a simple loan agreement with Chief Amadi for a small amount of money. They had it altered. The amount changed, a business partnership clause inserted that never existed, a fake witness signature added. The document now suggested that Maziezike had borrowed heavily from Chief Amadi and had offered partial ownership of the business as security. 4 days before Obina and Adaeze's wedding, Kelechi went to Obina. He brought the document. He told him his father had debts that could destroy the business. He told him if he stayed, they would involve Adaeze. They would claim she had helped steal from the business. They would file a police report. They would ruin her name. They would make her life in Oguta unbearable. Obina was 26 years old, in love, terrified. He left to protect her. He told himself it was temporary. He did not know it would take 9 years. He got to Lagos with nothing but his father's business contacts and one name. He worked. He studied. He became a lawyer, the night school kind, the kind who passed their exams in between shifts at a logistics company. He found an honest man, a retired judge named Effiong, whose son, Emmanuel, would one day drive a silver car into Oguta. He gathered evidence quietly. He wrote letters to Adaeze because he could not stay silent, because as long as she kept the letters, the truth had a witness. And Adaeze kept every letter, told nobody, waited. She understood everything from the 3rd letter.
She had suspected Mama Ngozi and Kelechi long before Obina confirmed it. She stayed in Oguta, endured every market morning, every empty festival bench, every broom handed to her at the church door. Because leaving meant they had won. She refused to let them win.
What came on a Friday evening? Obina would arrive on Sunday morning, in Oguta, in the open. Mama Ngozi's hand shook when she heard. Kelechi stopped eating midway through his meal. Chief Amadi did not come out of his house on Saturday at all. On Saturday night, Adaeze ironed her best dress, a deep green wrapper with yellow and gold edges, her mother's colors. She laid it carefully on the chair beside her bed. She did not set an alarm. She knew she would not sleep. Sunday came slow and golden. The church bells rang at 8, but nobody went to church. Because by 7:15, 3 cars had passed through the Oguta entrance, moving with the quiet authority of people who had nothing to prove and everything to deliver. Word spread the way only village word can spread, faster than wind, wider than shame. By the time Obina stepped out of the first car, the entire village was in the square. 9 years had changed him. The boy who left had been lean and uncertain, with the eyes of someone who had not yet decided what he was worth. The man who returned was something else. Taller, still, dressed in a dark Ankara suit that said nothing loudly and everything quietly. Behind him came Emmanuel. Behind Emmanuel came 2 other men, young, composed, carrying boxes. Behind all of them came a woman in a government uniform from the Corporate Affairs Commission office in Owerri. Obina did not greet anyone first. He walked directly to Adaze's door. She opened it before he knocked. Green wrapper, gold edges, head held with the composure of a woman who had spent 9 years deciding exactly how this moment would feel. Obina looked at her, at the small room behind her, at 9 years of everything she had endured, written quietly in her steady, unbroken eyes. His jaw tightened. He offered her his arm. She took it. Together, they walked to the village square. Mama Ngozi was there. Kelechi stood behind her. Chief Amadi was there, his cane shaking slightly. Obina stood in the center of the square and spoke without raising his voice. 9 years ago, I was shown a forged document and threatened. I was told that if I stayed, Adaeze would be destroyed. I left to protect her and to build a case. Today, that case is complete. Emmanuel opened the first box. The government official stepped forward. For 35 minutes, the truth was laid open in the center of Oguta like cloth spread on a market floor. Document by document, signature by signature. The original loan agreement, untampered. The altered version, exposed. The forged witness who has since signed a full confession in Owerri. The business record showing Mazi Ezike owed nothing. The bank statement showing Chief Amadi had collected payments from the palm oil processing contracts, payments for a business that was never his. Every lie. 35 minutes. Mama Ngozi sat down on the ground halfway through. Nobody helped her up. Kelechi opened his mouth once. Obina looked at him. Just looked. Kelechi went quiet. Chief Amadi wept. Old, desperate, ugly tears. The village watched, without comfort. When it was over, the square was completely silent. Old Mama Ifeoma, who had sat under the Udala tree for 40 years, removed her head wrap. She said into the silence, "We were fools. We were willing fools, and this woman paid for our foolishness." Nobody argued.
The legal consequences came in the weeks that followed. The business restored, a court case filed in Umahiri, 3 names handed to the authorities. Chief Amadi's house, quiet for the first time in 30 years. But what Adaeze remembered most was not the documents, not the official's uniform, not Chief Amadi's tears. She remembered Obina turning to her in front of everyone, quietly, simply, "I am sorry it took so long," he said. And she said what she had always known she would say. "You came back. That was always enough." They married 6 weeks later, under the Udala tree, the same tree where the women had once moved to the far side to avoid her. The whole village came, some out of joy, some out of shame, most out of both. Adaeze walked in wearing her mother's colors, deep green, gold edges, and on her face, not the satisfaction of being proven right, not triumph, just peace, the particular peace of a woman who waited, not because she was weak, but because she was absolutely certain of the truth. And so Oguta learned, slowly, with difficulty, that truth does not die, it waits, that silence is not surrender. Sometimes it is the most powerful weapon a person owns. Adaeze endured 9 years of being called useless, not because she was useless, but because she was certain, certain of what she knew, certain of who Obinna was, certain that a lie, no matter how long it stands, cannot stand forever. The people who swept her aside learned that the woman they pitied was the only one among them who never lost faith. And the ones who built their comfort on a stolen foundation learned that what you take by deceit, you will return with interest. Patience is not weakness. Waiting is not losing. And the woman they handed a broom was the strongest person in Oguta all along. If this story touched something in you, if you have ever been the person they handed a broom, if you have ever endured in silence while others celebrated, then this channel was made for you. Here, we tell African stories of strength, dignity, love, and justice. Stories that remind you silence is not weakness, waiting is not losing, and what is truly meant for you will never miss you. Subscribe now, turn on your notifications, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today, because the next story might be even harder.
Thank you for watching our story.
Please don't forget to subscribe.